Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I wanted to start off with just a general question. Baseball and politics, while they have their similarities, they are very different. Can you talk to me about what made you want to transition?
Well, it's interesting now. I've thought about doing a book called When Baseball became Politics and Politics Became Sports, because they're so similar in terms of approach and kind of. But I had this wonderful 20-year career with Los Angeles and San Diego, reached the height of success, had great teams, great teammates, and then it ends at a relatively young age. It was 39 for me. So you take those skills, and over the 20 years, I do a lot of speaking, and I always say not too many people get a chance to go to work with 30,000 people who are judging you, unless it's you, right? Or more than that. And you learn a lot about commitment and compassion for what you do, and baseball is the entertainment business. So I was a bat boy at a young age for the Brooklyn Dodgers in spring training and fell in love. And September 1st of 1969, I put a Dodger uniform on. They had drafted me for the first time. My dream came true. Got to the starting line. And then 20 years later, but in the meantime, that was the 70s. And in California, it was when Ronald Reagan was starting to gain his fame from television into politics. And he was a Democrat, and then the governor, and then he switched and became more conservative. And then I got a call from his office one day asking if I would introduce him during his campaign in 1980 and then 84. So I more or less got a lot of the things that made me into a man and a Californian and American from him.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so you feel like that was kind of the start of it for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was, when you're first starting out your career and you're building a family, you're focused on that. Probably politics isn't the thing you wake up to every morning, right? Until you get your paycheck and you start to learn what FICA is and all those things and how the economy ebbs and flows and what you think are the things that you believe in that will give you a better quality of life, and to see that if you have the right leadership, then especially coming to California, you come here for the California dream, American dream. And it was the heartbeat of America back in the 70s and 80s. And then things changed, politics changed. There was more regulation and there was more constraints on that reaching for that dream because there was more money taking out due to taxes and those things. So over the years, I got pretty good education, but there's always a right time, and it was never the right time until last year when I woke up and saw the state of this state and this country, and felt that our career politicians weren't serving us properly, and Washington was dysfunctional, and you saw rioting in the streets, and crime became rampant. And I thought, maybe I have a voice, and maybe I can make a difference in essentially a one-party state. And it took 5 months to do it. I had to walk around the state, came here, talked to people, talked to a wonderful teacher from here, telling me how tough it was. She was right near retirement, but she did the math and she couldn't retire because she wasn't going to be able to sustain her quality of life. So I put a great team together and found it was a very narrow path for this position, arguably most difficult for moderate in the country. But within 3 months after announcing October 10th, we were in the primary. We ended up beating Barbara Lee and Adam Schiff and Katie Porter in total votes, and as you know, there's a big disparity in registration between Democrats and Republicans. But the people of California started standing up and saying, "Thank you for running. We have somebody that we can believe in now, that we know, even though it's Steve Garvey 2.0, the politician." And what you're saying in our campaign's been based on common sense, compassion, and consensus building, which is refreshing now, where it used to be common.
Yeah, to that point, how's campaigning been going since October?
Well, good. We went from 0 to 10% in literally about 4 or 5 weeks. And then by the middle of December, we were in a solid second place. So everybody used to say, well, Adam Schiff is spending millions and millions of saying I'm too conservative and MAGA, which I'm not, kind of conservative. But he didn't want to run against Barbara Lee or Katie Porter. He wanted to run against me, and he got me, and it's a great race now. We got great momentum. I think he's very concerned, Whenever we say something, we force him to make a statement, his policies. And nobody's done that in a very long time. Nobody's been in my position now in 35 years. And I think that's why people are finally saying, we think you can be our voice in Washington, and it's time for change. It's time to have two voices in California instead of just one progressive or liberal.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I want to transition to kind of ask you a little bit about some of your policies,
Sure.
specifically for Kern County. We're ag country,
Yeah.
and so that's really important to us. Right. Can you talk to me about some of the response that you might have received from farmers as it relates to the things that they need and what they're expecting?
Sure. And I've been coming here for 50 years. First started, I think, 72 or 3. Buck Owen was a great entertainer at a golf tournament, so I've been here a lot. And when you talk to people, they always say the heartland of America is Nebraska, and so heartland of California is right here, Kern County, Central California. These are the generational people who have laid the foundation for arguably the greatest agricultural area in not only the country, but the world. So we always have to be conscious that we have to reward the people who have been the foundation, the roots of this area, and that's water, obviously. It has to be a free market economy that allows them to do what they need to do to provide the best products and services. And then the consumer will determine. And oil needs to flow. I think that oil is so very important here, along with ranching and agricultural. So I think the suppression of what's happened over the last 4 years, are we better off? Absolutely not. More people are under stress now. 85% of Californians break even or lose money every month. There's a misery quotient out there which measures inflation along with a lack of jobs number. We lead the country in misery. That should never happen. This is California. This is vibrant California. This great environmental state, energy, agriculture, technology is being regulated to the point where we're suppressed. And the rest of the country, and I travel a lot, they ask me what's happened to California, and that should never happen. It should be, wow, California is our example of what a state should be.
To your point about water, how do you plan on balancing conservation efforts while also giving our local farmers what they need to continue supplying food across the country?
Well, I think it's a local, state, and of course a federal issue. The federal issue for me is that making sure that this area has the water it needs to be that vibrant feeder of the world, so to speak, in the state. I think, say, the Delta Project's an example. I think my opponent last year, when asked about that project and water, they're looking into it. He's looking into it. We're studying it. There's no looking in, there's no studying. This area needs the water, should get the water it needs. Don't suppress this area. Oil, say for instance, it needs to flow here again. It can't be suppressed. It's part of the economy of California. We went from a $60 billion surplus to a $60 billion deficit because lack of leadership and a federal administration that's decided, well, let's let that water flow. Let's suppress the oil and gas. Let it flow down to Southern California. That's not going to happen under me. Everybody's going to get their fair share, especially here.
The other thing that's been a big issue in California is homelessness, specifically here in Kern County and, statewide as well. How do you plan on addressing that issue? Well,
I've always said I'd be always honest with the people, and I will always go where they need answers. And everyone asks that same question. And originally when we went through the top 10 issues, it was crime and it was inflation and it was the border and homelessness was right there, and it still is because it's a humanitarian issue for us. And I've gone to San Diego, I've gone to Los Angeles, San Francisco, Sacramento, gone into the homeless areas and their war zones sometimes, and actually got down on a knee and talked to them. Ask them, what's your lifeline? Do you get enough food? Do you have shelter? Do you get blankets? And invariably they say, sometimes. Well, over the last 4 years, $20 to $25 billion has been sent here and spent on the homeless. And last year it increased 15%. That's unconscionable. Where did the money go? And I think that, they did a audit recently here in California, and they couldn't find where the money went. And I've said, when I am your next U.S. elected senator, I'll go to Washington. One of the first things I'll do is a federal audit on where that money went. It's got to be corruption. These people don't deserve, they're at the lowest point of their lives, and they need help. They need somebody to guide them, protect them. You know, God gives us free will and choice. Well, I think we need to choose to help these homeless people now. And it's been talked about recently about, you know, taking them off the street. Well, I think you need to convince them they need to come off the street, because they're going to put in a warm, nourishing environment. They're going to deal with their mental illness and with drugs. And by the way, what that does, it makes our streets safer. It means small businesses a chance to thrive again. And we're going to take, you know, the drug lords off the streets and crime. So it's a multifaceted effect. And I think the most important thing is to start to address the issue. Make sure we have a coalition of people who, well, like the Alpha Project in San Diego, it's working great. Within a year, people can go into what we just talked about, a warm shelter, a opportunity to be tested for things, and to go out and get a job. And once they get that job, it's amazing what happens. They get dignity in their hearts again. And we all feel good when that happens. So I think it's right there, you know, next to the border and crime and energy.
Absolutely. And, you know, even beyond California, nationwide, a big issue, especially in this election, has been the war between Israel and Palestine. And you've mentioned that the answer for support is clear, that you are in support of Israel. Can you talk to me about why?
Well, through the years, especially with their statehood in 1948, Israel has never wavered in support of the United States. They're the single most influential democracy in the Middle East, one of our greatest allies. And I said right from the first debate we did that I have stood with them yesterday, and I will today and tomorrow. We'll be there for them. We'll always provide for their needs, but we can never tell them they can't protect their sovereignty and their people. And that's what I've seen with my opponent and the progressives, that all they want is a ceasefire and the pro-Palestinian movement to be able to go back and neutralize. And what's going to happen is, if there is a ceasefire and we don't control Hamas, what will happen in a relatively short amount of time is Iran will feed Hamas more of their needs to attack Israel again. So when we went there for a week, because the people wanted to know what really is happening. And the genocide happened on October 7th at 6:30 in the morning at a kibbutz just outside of the fence there near Rafah. And that's what became the massacre of the Israeli people by Hamas, unconscionable. So even though it's not a conventional war, it's fought through tunnels, and Hamas has put citizens in the way to try to get Israel to stop their attacks and so forth, but it's the residual of war. And now what we found out is that the real war will come on the northern border with Hezbollah. But Hamas is basically under control now, but we're all waiting for that next thrust by Hezbollah. And we know that they're supported by Iran. The proxies will start to attack Israel. We have to be ready to defend our friend.
What do you say to the people who are pro-Palestinian and call this a genocide?
Well, the genocide happened at 6:30 on October 7th. What happened after that was caused by Hamas and their brutal attack, the mutilation of Israelis and Americans, by the way, and Americans are held hostage along with Israeli. That was the genocide. This is just a country defending itself, and there is a residual war, and you have to understand that. Pro-Palestinian movements try to make it sound like it was Israel's fault, but anybody with common sense, like we have, knows who was the culprit and who's behind it, and that's Iran.
Definitely. You know, I want to transition now to border issues. You mentioned that being another big issue across California and across the nation as well. Can you talk to me about how you plan to secure the border?
Well, I think the right term is secure the border. And I think when we talk about that, what we do is, and there are tens of thousands of people around the world who have gone through the process of becoming an American citizen or working in America the proper way, going to an embassy and registering there, waiting to get the call, and seeing now 10 to 12 to 15 million illegal migrants come across ahead of them. I mean, that's not the American way. That's not what America believes in fairness. So what's happened is a open border policy that's caused a tremendous amount of death and destruction to the United States. Take fentanyl, for instance. Is it 2 million, 5 million people that have died from fentanyl? Human trafficking is another thing. Infiltration by cartels, terrorists into this country, controlling people. But it's every state now is a border state. It just happens to be that California is at the forefront with Nevada and Arizona and Texas, of course. So we have to get back to doing what's the right thing to do. And I think we still should have immigrants come across the border that are vetted properly and should come across. We should build up our whole judicial system on the border so that these people that come across illegally should be tried. We have to increase ICE because ICE is really the one that goes into the community and finds the terrorists and roots them out, and then that's how we get them out of this country. So all these things need a tremendous amount of federal support along with state support. But we've got to stop this daily infiltration of illegal migrants.
You know, another issue as well that you've mentioned is a priority for you. You've even spoken about wanting to be a teacher prior to your plans to play baseball. Kern County students have historically tested very poorly, and literacy rates are very low here. Can you speak to what resources you're going to make available to the school system to help raise those test scores and support our students?
Well, you know, with COVID, there was a tremendous amount of money that was distributed out to school districts. And I don't know exactly how much was distributed here. But I think it's important for people in the educational system and in our treasury and so forth, to be able to determine where are the spots that have been underserved and take that money, by the way, that's still sitting out there that people, especially in school districts, didn't know how to use it, to take that money back and redistribute it so that students and families of Kern County, per se, now will get added monies to create maybe after school projects, getting back to core subjects instead of making social media subjects and social subjects half of your school curriculum. Let's get back to how America was founded, and that's good, solid core subject teaching, putting children first, putting families first, giving mom and dad control of their children. And again, children are our single greatest currency and single greatest responsibility. So we have to make sure that we're able to guide them and protect them so that they're contributing citizens and that we're proud of them in the future.
You know, of all of these issues that we've talked about, if you get elected into office, what's the first thing you plan on doing?
Well, education is important, but I want that audit, that federal audit about where that money went to with our homeless. I'm tired of corruption in our state and in our country. We're never better than when we feel secure, where we can control crime, where our police is well funded. You know, I said at the beginning of my campaign, endorsements aren't important except those of first responders. And we have significant support in the state of California from our police and sheriffs and firemen. That's important to me. Those are the people that put their lives on the line to protect us. So I want to make sure they're well funded, they're well educated, have the best technology, and we start eliminating crime in the streets and crime in our neighborhoods and crime in our retail districts. Look at all the great big box retail stores that have left San Francisco. I mean, that was a vibrant place to go shopping. They can't afford to anymore. Remember the day you could walk through a CVS and pick up your items and go to the checkout? You can't do that now. Why is that? Because people, career politicians, have allowed this country to be controlled for power and for wealth, and not for the people.
That kind of wraps up everything that I wanted to ask you. Is there anything else that you want to touch on that you think I might have missed?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, I think the most important thing is I have said I'll be a one-term U.S. Senator. And I say that because at 75, even though I think I'm in pretty good shape and vibrant and can talk and so forth, that I can give my constituents, the people of California, 6 years of going to bat every day for them about the core issues that have hurt our society over the last 4 years and start to turn that around so we have a two-voice, two-party state. and then we get back to California being this vibrant California, this shining city, whether it's Bakersfield or LA or Santa Barbara or wherever, that it should be in the state. And I'm here to serve the people. I'm here to be their voice, the wind beneath my wings, so to speak. And it's time for change. Career politicians have failed us. Let's put people in positions now that really care about us and our quality of life.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Good questions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. See you.
All right.